I'm Gabe Martino. I'm a senior security solution engineer. Rich, would you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Richard Clark, Senior Solutions Architect at JFrog.
Perfect. And so today we're doing our recording for our demonstration of a vulnerability and kind of a remediation. But really, it's a bigger conversation that's relevant to kind of all of our lives as either DevOps or DevSecOps professionals. So this holiday season, we're going to be showing you how to defend against real-world threats so that PagerDuty is not going to be going off and you can actually enjoy time with your loved ones. We're going to start out here with the whole fiasco that occurred about 3 years ago, around November, December of 2021, the Log4Shell vulnerability on the Log4j package. So, what was Log4j? What was the instance? Why does this matter? Why would this matter for you? Um, Log4j was a real world incident that affected, by research done by Wiz and EY, around 93% of cloud enterprise environments. 93% of these were vulnerable to the Log4Shell attack. During the holiday season, these systems were vulnerable. And so what does that mean? This was a vulnerability that allowed for an RCE. So this is the one of the highest level issues you could encounter with an exploit. Actually being able to run arbitrary code on a system. That's like the worst thing that you can have. That what that can open you up to is really, the sky's the limit. And so this was something that after actually being announced 10 days after, uh, only 45% of that previous number had workloads that were patched. So what would this mean for your organization if you weren't in the know? When the next Log4Shell hits the next open source package, something that's tightly integrated into all of your systems, how do you become aware of it? How do you manage it? And how do you prevent it? This is the types of things that we're going to discuss here, and what we can solve with the with X-Ray and the JFrog platform. So the question that everybody was asking themselves when this hit was, are we vulnerable and what can we do about it? So the first step is going to be we need to identify every running server and understand, is this package in the vulnerable version in place? And is it leaving us actually vulnerable to an attack? And come up with some sort of policy to update the versions that are and prevent the versions that are not. So that's the whole goal: detect and remediate. So how do we do that with JFrog, right? How do we actually walk through a scenario like that? Richard, why don't we go ahead and give an example of how we could go about doing this?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Gabe. And this is a major concern, right? And how do we do this very seamlessly? 3 years ago, this is a major issue that disrupted, I mean, everybody's families, holidays was ruined. People were putting stopgaps in place and trying to figure out how, one thing, identifying this and preventing these vulnerabilities and attacks. So a
Yeah,
lot has changed in 3 years.
I think one of the things
But
Richard actually there was, how do we identify first,
mhm,
are we using the vulnerable version of this package? Because most people are asking
yeah,
themselves that question of, where in our environment is this? So how would we go about doing
exactly right.
in
Yes.
what we have here?
Yeah, so absolutely. So a great example is the developer experience. I may already be working in my IDE on a project. And, if somebody comes up to my desk and says, and asks me, like, are we impacted by Log4j? And I'm not even sure what it is. We have amazing assistants now with Copilot that we can ask basic questions around what is Log4j? What does this mean to me? And most importantly, how would I actually identify, am I even vulnerable to Log4Shell in my projects that I'm using today? So one of the things that we'll be able to do with this now is pinpoint Log4Shell. You can see actually the CV that it maps to. And what I want to do is actually I want to catch this right away, and I want to stop my development team from using this. So using these Copilot integrations, we're able to do very basic questions and then go into our UI and actually be able to see about creating a policy. One thing, I might actually be already using Log4j, and I may have other teams using it. So by creating a curation policy, this is going to prevent any new teams from using it. So we can do that very seamlessly by creating a log4j block plot policy. In this case here, I'm going to look at all of my artifacts, and I want to basically create a custom condition just on log4j, right? And I can patch in that CV number that we've already validated as the critical one, this new 0 day that's been released. So by saving this condition, I'm actually able to block this going forward. So any new developers that are going to be pulling this, they're going to be blocked right from the get-go. Now,
Nice.
what this doesn't cover is the existing artifacts. And
Okay.
I may even be using this, right, in Artifactory. So I could actually even run a search here and look for Log4j.
Yeah.
Log4j4 is one of the ones I'm looking at. And from the CVE, we saw that any versions older than 2.9 are actually prone to this vulnerability, this attack. Here you can see 2.7 is actually one of the vulnerable ones. And we indicate that with our X-ray data. So we identify that actually it has known CVEs within it. And it's important to now create a policy to block this. So this is where X-ray specializes in. And again, setting up to prevent a new block policy for
So
preventing
this is the
log4j
way we
downloads.
can, so this is the way we can alert on all of our existing artifacts in Artifactory and answer that question, which is what projects have this package and how do we actually turn that into a remediation step, right? This is
That's
really,
exactly right.
this is going to be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to prevent developers. We know this is a major problem. We want to block downloads immediately. We want to even fail builds if a developer tries to use this in their existing build process.
Let's do it. Let's do a notify too. Let's do a chain where we
Yeah,
can notify the
that's
developer
absolutely,
and alert the AppSec team. That would be cool.
yeah, this is great. And maybe we even want to create jar tickets with this, but it's basically notifying the people actually deploying this. I'm actually going on vacation for a week to Maui with my family, and I'm in charge of finding out if we're impacted by Log4j. By putting these stopgaps in place, I'm giving us protection to prevent this from happening. And here's the CVE that we're just going to patch in again for that. So again, great preventative measures that we didn't have back then. I don't have to worry about putting stopgaps in place. I'm blocking inbound new requests for Log4j. I'm blocking existing use of the vulnerable packages. And now I have time to actually go ahead and remediate it by looking at that.
So let's
So
say we go back, Rich, now that we got these
mhm,
policies in place and we're actually alerting to know what projects are vulnerable, we're translating this into Jira tickets, we're notifying the
mhm.
developers. How do we turn that into an actual remediation? What would a developer, when they found that package, find that like in their IDE? So we've gone through and said, you know what, you're on
Yeah.
the wrong version of this. How do we turn that into an actual change in the IDE?
Yeah. So within the IDE environment, again, we could search to see if we're vulnerable to this package. We can even ask what versions of safe for me to use.
Yeah,
In this
let's
case
ask
here,
Copilot and see, is this in use anywhere?
yeah, you can say, is Log4j in use in my application, right? And if it finds that it is pinpointed, we can even provide details to the developer to see which one is optimized for the fix. In this case here, it even gives you snippets to identify the use of the application. And of course, I may want to find a safer version of it. What version of Log4j is safe for me to use? And this is without even reading the CWEs, the bulletins regarding this. It's
So
giving
this
you
will
very
pull right
clear-cut
from our data.
distinctions.
So this will pull right from our
Exactly.
data.
Yep.
Nice.
And you can see here, it's showing you all the safe versions of Log4j, along with the CVE. And if I want to actually create a policy around this, how do I create? You can see these in breadcrumbs here. It'll even ask, how can I verify that my application is no longer using this? Again, I put these stopgaps in place. And now next week, when I talk to my CISO, I have all the answers in front of him. I've blocked everything. Nobody can use it. And now we have full protection around this specific CVE.
Nice. Well, it looks like we were able to go ahead and wrap this up before the holidays hit. Um, so to speak, there's no Grinch this holidays, right? No pager duty Grinch is calling you away from Maui.
Yeah.
Because we've gone ahead and we've
I,
done what we needed to do.